Good evening. I'm going to do my best impression of Julia Child. Good evening. So tonight, Christine has talked me into a cooking demonstration, and we're going to do Za'atar chicken. So I'm going to start by just talking a little bit more about what kind of cuisine it is, where it comes from, and what the Za'atar spice is. So first of all, Za'atar is a Middle Eastern, North African spice, and it's actually a mix of spices. So it has some sumac, some thyme, some oregano, some sesame seeds, all blended together. And that's the kind of thing that they do a lot in the Middle East, in North Africa, is they make mix of spices, and they use them on everything. So you might have heard of ras el hanout, which is that spice actually contains like 50 spices. So a lot of families have their own recipes, but nowadays you can easily find them in the supermarket. So tonight we're going to do the Za'atar, and we're going to use couscous, Israeli couscous, or also called pearl couscous. It's actually not couscous. It's a bit like orzo. It's actually a pasta. And it was invented, or created, I should say, in the 1950s when there was a huge influx of immigrants into Israel, and rice was in short, like they didn't have enough rice to feed the population. So they created this, and at first it used to be in the shape of grains of rice, and then they made it like in balls. So couscous is actually a cracked wheat. Maftoul is also another cracked wheat, but also has that's covered in wheat, so it's kind of like a combination of the both. But this is actually just a form of pasta. So the kinds of things that are used before I start actually, so if you're cooking along with us, turn your oven on to 400 degrees, and if you want to boil some water, that will come in handy in a minute when we start to cook the couscous. So we have different vegetables, and we're going to start to prep the vegetables to start with. But I wanted to go over something. A lot of people tell me that their knives are dull, and they have to sharpen their knives
here tonight?
all the time. And I don't.
Okay,
I think a lot of people don't understand or not familiar with the difference between honing and sharpening a knife.
Till about 20.
So your knife shouldn't be sharpened more than twice, 3 times a year. I use my knives all the time, and I sharpen maybe every 3 months. But the one thing that you do is hone your knife, and you
just like a meeting, or do you have an activity?
Your knife every time you use it, or at least once a week.
I just didn't know if it was like something that would be loud and like physical, or
go through them. So the difference between sharpening and honing.
Because I was going to say we could also
sharpening actually takes
it's up to you guys, but
a little bit of.
Well, we could do the flicker room, which is all set up easily with the same kind of tables in the round, and then there would be no interference, no noise.
But when you're using it, when you're cutting,
thank you.
Every time you do this, then the blade of the knife, and that's something you can't see with the naked eye, but the blade of the knife just bends a little bit like this. So the next time that you're doing it, it actually doesn't cut as sharply. And that's when you take the honing rod, and you actually hone the knife, going like this, starting off at a sharper angle, and eventually going down and making it like a tighter angle. And what that does is like redress the blade so that it's very sharp. Now, you might think that's an unnecessary step. I'm going to tell you, if you keep your knives sharp and honed, a lot less cutting accidents, and it will make your cooking so much easier. A sharp knife gets through a whole bunch of cutting in a second. And always use either wood or bamboo boards. Glass boards, etc., that will just dull your knives. So, put this over here.
There was a comment, Susie, if you could speak up a little.
Oh, okay. I will. See, I'm taking orders from Christine all the time, even when I'm in charge. So first of all, we're going to start with doing something. I'm going to take I have large naan breads, which are like flatbreads. You have the small ones, but it's the same principle. So we're going to put a teaspoon of the spice. And mix it with some olive oil or some ghee. And ghee is clarified butter. And both of these actually smoke at a high temperature. And I mean, I like olive oil on a naan, but traditionally we use ghee because it's kind of like the oil or the method of cooking that we use in India. And a naan is originally an Indian flatbread. So just take a brush and brush the spice mixture over your naan. So I'm going to cook today a lot more, bigger quantities than you are. And that's because the Mungan men are having this for dinner. So I'm going to cook here for the family. Okay? That's that. Okay. So today, as I said, you can use any vegetables that you like. If you want to do it the quickest possible, like I use vegetables that cook in relatively the same time. So I've got green beans and asparagus. If you were to use, let's say, snow peas, then you would probably put the asparagus in first and then let it cook for a minute or two and then put your snow peas in. So just kind of like go with the, whatever fits, whatever your tastes are, and cut them in just bite-sized pieces. And if you're like me and you don't like to do much washing up, I always prep my vegetables first before I prep the meat, because I can't do it the other way around. I would have to change knives, wash the knife, get another knife out. So I normally do all my vegetables, and then after that, and I prep everything, especially a lot of the cooking that I do is like stir frying or cooking that's very quick when you actually get into it. So during the day, I can just prep all the vegetables, and then when it comes time to cooking, it literally is like a 20-minute process. So, I was going to say, I used asparagus, and I peel, when the asparagus is this big, when it's very small, then I don't peel the stem. But when it's this big, I peel the stem because the skin gets a little bit stringy when it's bigger, and the little leaves here are kind of chewy. So just, not the top, but just the base, and it cooks quicker also if you have it peeled. So again, just in bite-sized pieces. It's not an exact science. You're going to mix this. And that's very traditional of Middle Eastern and North African cooking, is where you would cook it's a combination of cooked and uncooked things. So we're going to cook the vegetables. I'm also going to add some dates, chopped up dates. And again, if you're doing some tagine or any of that region's cooking, you would chop up some dried fruit. That's very common. So apricots, you could put anything, any dried fruit that you want in there, as long as it's not sweetened. And then at the end, we would add things like fresh things, like we don't cook the scallions or the avocado. So I'm just going to cook up, and while I'm chopping up the scallions, would you like to start talking about one of your saints?
I would. And before I do that, there's a question about how do you peel asparagus?
You use a Y-shaped, like a potato peeler, but I find the Y-shaped ones are the easiest. So you just literally just turn it around like you would peel a carrot with a Y-shaped peeler.
All right, so we have 3 saints while Susie's chopping scallions that we're going to talk about tonight. One of the things that I wanted to share is about the universality of being Catholic. We talk a lot about the universal church and the idea that Catholics are all around the world, But I think primarily when we think of saints, we think of people that have come from Europe or European countries. And I was able to find a little bit of information about 3 saints born in the Middle East that tie into our meal for tonight. So first we'll start with Saint Rafka. Saint Rafka was born in Lebanon in 1832, and she was an only child. She was born to devout Christian parents, but her mother died at a really young age, which obviously changed the course of her life. She went on, after deciding what to do with herself, to become a nun and joined a convent. Later, working with children, teaching catechism, and she spent her free time focused on learning Arabic so she could reach out to more people and bring Jesus to them, and convincing girls that they had a worthy place in the church. She was canonized in 2001, and her feast day is March 23rd.
Oh, interesting. So, we're going to start with cooking the couscous. Well, let me just turn this on. So, first of all, warm some olive oil. And then I'm just going to add my Za'atar to this. And what that does is by toasting, a little bit like you do with orzo, by toasting the pasta, it kind of brings out the nuttiness of the couscous, and it makes the herbs, the spice bloom as well, which like releases all the oil in the sesame seed and all the spices, and actually just brings out the flavor. So just do this for about a minute. I said just enough that when you start, I can't smell much with this mask on, but normally at home, I hope you don't have a mask on. The tell is when you start to smell the spices, you've done well. And you can see it doesn't cook it, it just takes a slightly translucent quality to the couscous. There we go. Okay. So I've boiled my water before, and it doesn't have to boil. It doesn't have to be like boiling as you put it in there, especially if you have a gas stove. And I would say, depending on how strong your stove is, I say cook 8 to 10 minutes. Keep an eye on it, and just check it at between 7 and 8 minutes just to make sure. Sorry, the fan is going.
So
the one thing though,
a cup and a half of water for a cup of couscous?
yes,
Is that the ratio?
and you can also cook the couscous. If you're going to cook it, the reason I'm cooking it like the exact amount is because I want the herbs to stay, the spice to stay in there, and I want it to be incorporated in the liquid. You can also cook this like you would cook pasta. Just cook it in a lot of water and then drain it. But when you're doing it with a spice like this, you would then lose all the flavor of the spice when you're draining the, I want it to stay in here.
So we're cooking it more like rice than pasta tonight.
Yeah,
Where it's all going to
at the
absorb
moment,
all the
so
water.
it'll be all absorbed, yeah. With that, I'm going to make it come to a boil, and then just reduce it just to make sure that, and this stove is a little bit strong, so I have to make sure. And you can leave it uncovered. I'm actually going to part cover it because I don't think I can put this low enough that it doesn't all evaporate before it's cooked, right? So do we have I'm going to put a timer so that I do not forget. Okay. All right. Okay. So this is going to cook for about 8 minutes. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put the bread in the oven. As I was saying, it's not like a home stove. So I'm going to put the bread in the oven, and I'm going to turn the oven off. And the reason I'm going to do that is not because it's a culinary technique. It's because I have burnt bread more than once in my life. So what I tend to do is, if I'm going to be serving it with dinner, and I know this doesn't take very long. It's not a very long dinner cooking. So I'm going to put it in, and I'm just going to turn it off. And then it'll get, when I'm ready to eat, it'll be fine. All right, so let's move to the chicken. So again, I always say, if you want to cook dinner, bring your meat to room temperature about, especially beef. Chicken is more forgiving, but especially beef, bring it to room temperature about 15 minutes, 20 minutes before you're ready to cook. And again, because I don't like doing dishes, if you're going to be using, so this I'm going to cook, and then I'm going to use the pan to cook the vegetables after. So I'm going to use this plate again to put the chicken and let it rest while I'm cooking the vegetables. Instead of having to use 2 plates, just put a piece of cling film that you can throw away once you're cooking your chicken. And then you can put the cooked chicken, because putting raw and cooked chicken on the same plate is a big no-no. Okay, so here, all right. So. As I said, there's probably even more than twice the recipe, but the Hmongen men like their meat. So, I know some of you who are watching also have boys, grown-up boys, so you know how I have to double, triple, and sometimes quadruple the recipes. So while this is cooking on one side, I'm going to double check my pasta. Okay. I'm going to take and sprinkle on top the za'atar. So when you go to the supermarket, if you see things that are, a lot of times, like, you know, the new herbs, they will give you an indication, like it's, you know, Middle Eastern or whatever. Most of those you can actually use for a lot of, like, you can put this on fish. It depends on the flavor profile. This is kind of like, it's got a little bit of, the sumac gives it a little bit of tanginess, a little bit like lemon pepper would do, like, you know, that kind of feel. If you like something more spicy, then, you know, the Ras El Hanout Baharat is one. The dukkha is a mix of crushed different nuts and different herbs as well. Like, just look at the what's in it, and most of them have a description of what would be in there, and it's very. And just think, if if any of those ingredients are things that you like, just try something new. And it makes a big difference. This is a very simple meal. There's nothing, complicated. It's kind of like chicken over pasta, basically. Just kind of, using a different ingredient, different herbs and spices makes a big difference sometimes. I'm going to keep on going. So while I'm doing this, I forgot that. So Christine wanted me to show you this trick. We're also going to be doing, so for those of you who are accomplished cooks, you know that it's probably just as quick to slice all those little tomatoes in half by hand, but it's a cute little trick. So if you're going to slice a lot of cherry tomatoes in half, put them all on here with the lip up, and this one with the lip down. And take your knife, apply a bit of pressure, and ta-da! All the tomatoes are cut in half. See? So it's a cute little trick. As I said, if you're quick with the knife, it's probably just as quick, but
I don't know. That was pretty quick. And those lids are just like deli lids, right?
They're just like the deli lids that you have. As long you have to put them like, the little thing that goes up. So one right side up and one right side down. And just apply pressure and just gentle pressure. Like don't crush them. And that's it.
That's pretty good.
Another trick of the trade. And then we're going to make Christine.
Oh.
In a minute.
Okay.
Dice an avocado. So if you want to show Christine there's 30 seconds left. So I'm going to probably cook this one until like 10 minutes, another 2 minutes. So it's almost absorbed all the water. So the chicken is about 3 to 4 minutes aside. So and basically, as you can tell, oops, hang on. Leave that there. The tell is like don't fight with it. If it's not coming up easy, it's because it's not ready. Right? So if it's like, you can, try it, but if you start to have to pull it apart, it hasn't quite made this crust at the bottom, so you just leave it a little bit longer.
People at home are saying how yummy their house smells.
Oh, it does.
It smells good in here too.
So the couscous is almost all ready. So would you like, while we're doing this, we're waiting for this to cover another saint, and then I'm going to do the vegetables and make you do this as we do.
Excellent. The second saint I wanted to share with everyone tonight is Saint Charbel. He also was born in Lebanon. His name at birth was Yusuf Malouf, and he was born in 1828. He became a priest and lived for many years at the St. Marian Monastery, where he lived in a hermitage and spent much of his time in prayer. He was canonized in 1977, and his feast day is July 24th.
All right. One more minute, and I think that will be ready. Almost there. So, what are we chop that in the middle. So yeah, so another technique as well, and we're using arugula today. You could be using baby spinach or any other type, or baby kale, and they're nice because, like, I like the arugula because of the spiciness of it. Like, it's just got that little bit of a bite. But I don't want to cook it, but I don't want to have it too raw either. So one of the things you do is to actually just let it sit. The same thing would work with baby spinach. Just let it sit on top of the couscous when the couscous is done. So, like, the couscous is pretty much done now. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in the dates. Okay, those are medjool dates that I've chopped fine. And again, they do like a little bit of softening. So just put them in. Don't cook them. I've turned off the stove. The ring is off. And I'm just going to take a handful. So there's no measurement. It's however much or little you like. Just cover it and let it rest for a bit.
Now, do they call it baby spinach because it's picked early?
Yeah. So baby spinach is not, it's not a type of, it really is just young spinach. So you pick it before the leaves go bigger. Like if any of you have a garden, if you do things like beets or, any of those tops would be actually fantastic in something like this. So just use whatever you have, Like, that's the thing about, a lot of times about the kind of cooking is, I do like to follow a recipe, but a lot of times, just open the fridge, see what you have there, take an unusual spice that you haven't used before, and just try it out. There we go. We're almost done with the chicken. And this is ginger ale. I've given up wine for Lent. Or should I say, I've given up weekday wine for Lent. And unfortunately, this is a weekday. So, no wine today. So, as I said, I separated the scallions into the whites and the darks. I'm going to put the whites in with mixing it in, and then for presentation, just sprinkle the greens over. Okay. So maybe I should do. Like, do you want to do the avocado? Oh, hang on. We'll wait until the vegetables. So this is almost ready. So sometimes I make this recipe and I use bone-in. So bone-in and skin-on chicken is probably the tastiest of, especially the thighs are the tastiest. So the only difference what you would do is you could cook it like I've just done now, and just like start them earlier when you're starting your couscous. Put it in the oven while you're doing the rest of the couscous, and let them cook for about 20 minutes on a 375-degree oven so that they cook through. But because here we didn't want to sit here and just say, here's one I made earlier, we're using the boneless, skinless thighs. And you could do that with any other meats as well. And even a fish would be nice on here, a piece of salmon. Those spices look very good on this. It tastes very good on that as well. So my chicken is done. I'm going to just transfer it to here. Okay. And I'm going to let it rest for a minute. Just put a piece of foil on it. Let it rest. So I'm going to start with cooking the vegetables. Now, if you did want to, if you like your vegetables softer, you could steam them or boil them before for just blanch them for 3 minutes, and then put them in there. I do like them with a little bit of crisp on it, so I put them directly here. And as I said, if they're small enough, the beans and with the peeled asparagus, they'll be fine in about 4 or 5 minutes. Okay, so now I'm going to teach Christine how to quarter. Just checking on my bread. So, come over here, though.
Okay.
Okay. So, take your left hand. Which way? Okay, so take the avocado in your left hand. Now, slice
How do you
the
know when
avocado-
they're ripe?
Huh?
How do you know when they're ripe?
So when they're ripe, is they have a little bit of give. They're not rock hard, but they're not if you push them in, then do guacamole with them. They're not great to.
Okay, this one seems good.
A tiny bit of give. So if you buy them and they're just a bit they're too ripe, and you want them for the next day, take a brown paper bag, put the avocado in, and throw a banana in there, and whatever gas the banana gives off, and you close it up, right? In 24 hours, you have a ripe avocado.
Interesting.
Yeah. I forget what it's called now, but the gas that the banana gives off ripens the avocado right there.
Okay.
So,
Well, I thought you were going to teach me.
cut all the way through.
All the way around,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Be careful not to cut yourself.
We practiced not cutting myself earlier. And now twist and pull, right?
Yeah. Twist and pull apart. There you go.
That
Phase
one was really easy.
See? Because it was right. So, if you're not comfortable doing what she's about to do, take a spoon and just ease the
Pit
the
out?
seed, your pit out. Yeah. But if not, then do what she's about to do. So you just hit it firmly, but you're not getting through. Or you just want to get in it. Okay. Now twist. That's it. There you go.
It was very easy. And now
And
knock.
then go like this and knock it off. Yeah. There you go.
And now what?
Now,
This-
put your thumb through this way.
You do that
Put your
one.
thumb through.
Oh, it comes right off. I have never done this before.
No.
No,
There
I
you
don't
go.
really like guacamole, and that's the only thing I've ever seen on avocados. So, oh, it's messy though. That's
A little
fine.
bit. Here.
Oh, look at you with the mopping. That's an Italian word. Did you know that one?
No.
Oh, yes.
The
That's the mopping.
No.
Yes. See, I taught her something. Who knew? Okay. Am I dicing this?
Yes, please.
Oh, I can do that. I don't need instructions for that.
So now that the vegetables are nice and tender, I'm going to throw in and this, when it releases its juices, it also kind of deglazes the pan a little bit.
Oh, it's the tomatoes.
Tomatoes. Tomato. There you go.
Look at that.
Well done.
Not bad, right? Although I did make a mess on your towel.
Please. That is what they are for. All right. We're almost there.
And that doesn't get cooked. It just gets tossed in.
Yeah, it just gets tossed in, yeah.
All right. Wow. All right, I'm going
Cooked
to
avocado is
show everybody the vegetables. Ooh, they look good.
Almost there.
All right.
It's here. Okay. Okay, I think that's good. So add all the vegetables to your couscous. Okay. Rolled carrot. I'm going to give that a toss first. Okay. And then I'm going to add the whites of the scallions. I'm adding the avocado last because it's a little bit more fragile. And actually, see, I think I need a little bit more fresh. I let my arugula sit for a bit long. Always adjust as you go along. Normally I would taste and add salt and pepper as needed. Please do so at home. But at the moment I'm just going to okay. There you go. So to serve, oh, forgot my avocado, sorry. There we go. Spoonful with all the vegetables. And you add your chicken. A little bit of scallion greens on top.
Now I need to know, at home when you're cooking for your family, do you do the garnish part?
I do.
Oh my goodness, how did I know you were going to say that?
I do. And sometimes I forget, and I have to say to everybody, bring your plates back, because I forgot. Or I run to the table with the garnish. Yes, I do like a bit of garnish. So that's it. That's the chicken za'atar. And as Julia Child would say, bon appetit!
So for anybody who doesn't know, Susie is the owner of Red Mailbox Farm Catering. I will post a link in the chat box when we're done tonight. Please go over and like her Facebook page and share it with family and friends. She's an amazing caterer and would be happy to talk to you about any needs that you might have post-COVID
Yes,
for your
exactly.
party. And we thank you so much for being here,
Oh,
Susie.
my pleasure. My pleasure. Hopefully we can do this again.
All right. Bye.
Bye.